Joining me now on our panel is NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent, my colleague on Capitol Hill, Vitali, senior advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders, a guy I followed around the country for more than a year, Faiz Shakir, who's got so sick of me calling him, and Republican strategist Jim Dornan to talk more about everything that's happening here today. So, Allie, you've seen this play out. You covered Donald Trump in 2016. You've been on Capitol Hill. You've been all around the country. What we've seen play out here in the past couple of days, isn't this a culmination of all those issues that you covered way back, almost 8 years ago?
Yeah, this is the seeds that Trump planted then finally bearing fruit. And now everyone else has to do the same thing, right? I mean, we're watching Ron DeSantis almost try to out-Trump Trump and try to run to the right of him on several issues, including affirmative action just yesterday when he pointed out that in an interview with our colleague Chuck Todd in 2015, Trump said he's fine with affirmative action. Now DeSantis trying to say that Trump is an advocate of that policy somehow. We're watching those two campaigns really start to go at each other more. But I think, again, this is going to be a primary that is largely fought along the lines of the so-called culture wars. People like DeSantis and Trump will do well by that metric, but that's nothing to say of how that translates then in a general election. And frankly, I was on the campaign trail yesterday in New Hampshire, 2 days ago in New Hampshire, and I met voters who said they were concerned with that as the way the primary was going to play out because they want to put forward a candidate that's electable, and they don't know if they can do that if it's Trump or if it's others based on the policies that they're talking about right now.
Well, Allie talked about that moment with Chuck Todd and Donald Trump. As luck may have it, we have it. Jim, I want you to listen to this. Take a listen.
Affirmative action. Should we keep it? Yes or no?
I'm fine with affirmative action. I mean,
should it be expanded or should be limited?
Well, it should be, you have to also go free market. You have to go capability. You have to do a lot of things. But I'm fine with affirmative action. We've lived with it for a long time, and I've lived with it for a long time. And I've had great relationships with lots of people, so I'm fine with it.
And in addition to us amplifying this, so is Ron DeSantis' super PAC. Probably not a surprise. But, Jim, I mean, this does kind of define a little bit of the issue that Donald Trump has because, his ideology has changed a lot over the course of his political career. Is he going to lean into these decisions that the Supreme Court is putting out? He's already even shown a little bit of reluctance to lean into the Dobbs decision as well. How does Donald Trump play this?
So I think he probably skirts the line like he does with a lot of stuff. I mean, affirmative action is a part of our life. I mean, it's part of our society. So I can see why he said that. But he was a Democrat, and he's not a conservative at all. That group, however, is very conservative, and that's why all these guys are going up there. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, what Trump did to women voters in the suburbs who voted Republican, we need them back. And so I think that's a good reason for these guys going up there, too. But who knows with Trump? I mean, literally, I'll make a prediction, and the next day it'll be proven wrong.
I think we've all been there, right? Yeah. So Faiz, how do Democrats play this? I mean, these rulings may be very popular at a place like Moms for Liberty, but what about the general electorate? Is there an opening here for Democrats?
The thing about these rulings is they affect real people. Any place you go in this country, you could talk to a gay individual. You could talk to somebody who's suffering from student debt. You talk to a woman or families dealing with reproductive rights choices. This is real. This is stuff that goes on. And so sometimes you and I know that there's Supreme Court decisions that live in an esoteric bubble and are obscure and only law professors can understand. This is simple stuff to understand. And they're so discordant from the mainstream of values in the society. That's the other problem. The majority views on this, on choice, on LGBTQ, on affirmative action, you name it, the court is just completely out of step. And so this is an easy politics question. It's very easy.
Well, I'm going to challenge you on that.
Yeah.
How easy is it? Because what's the prescription, right? We've seen some progressive members, which you align yourself with, talking about packing the court, building the court. Do you attack the court? Do you attack these policies? I want to play another bite from Chuck Todd, this with the Vice President Kamala Harris, about who the court is. Take a listen to this. Actually, we don't have this one. But this was after the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned, the Dobbs decision. She called it an activist court. We heard President Biden yesterday say it's not a normal court. Is the solution here to go after the court, to put that in the public sphere, and then even suggest adding more members to the court?
So two things on that. One is, yes, this court is acting as a policy arm, and if justices want to be policy arms, they should step down from the court and they should run for office. Justice John Roberts, Alito, hey, guess what? Step in the political arena and run from New Jersey or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Number two is that I think, I've seen your questions. I understand your concerns around the court and the questions around the activist court. People forget that what you're actually asking for is a more activist Congress. That's where you actually want this action to occur. You want Roe v. Wade enshrined through law. You want LGBTQ laws passed through Congress that ensure these rights. You've got a Supreme Court that's acting out of step. But if a Congress were to step in and enshrine these things to law, so what is the question there, Ryan? It's like, do we want to end the filibuster? Do we get a majority?
Right.
Do we start pushing on a legislative agenda that addresses?
So let's go to our Congress expert. Is any of this going to get done? I mean, that's the problem we cover every day that we run into, is that there's a desire, a will from the grassroots, but turning it into reality seems elusive.
And you and I do the same live shot every single time on any number of issues, which is, well, Democrats want to do this, but we're in a state of divided government right now. Or even last Congress, when it wasn't split government and Democrats had both houses, they still didn't have the votes to do what they wanted to do, for example, on codifying reproductive protections. That's always going to be why you're watching them push to the next election. And I think you're right. It's not esoteric politics. Clearly, it's galvanizing people, especially in 2022. But sustaining energy in politics is always one of the really difficult things. And although we see in the polling right now the intensity on things like guns and on repro are with Democrats, sustaining that and is always really hard.
Well, and she just named the reason or the solution to the problem. Win elections. That's how you solve the problem in the Supreme Court.
Yeah. But part of that problem, though, Jim, is that we don't contest these elections in the general election anymore, right? I mean, so much of this...
Well, we don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we never did. But so much of this is now fought at the primary level, where there isn't really an incentive or a motivation for these candidates to come to the middle and cut deals and find the kind of most popular option that most Americans are thinking about. Is that one of the biggest problems to seeing real systemic change, is that we're fighting on the margins right now?
Yeah, I mean, the country's incredibly divided. We all know that. And it's far left and far right. And the people in the middle don't exist anymore. Where's Fred Upton now that we need him? Or Adam Kinzinger? You know, they're gone.
Right.
So I think you nailed it also, is it is tougher for the very reason you just stated.
Right. I want to show you, tell me if we don't have this, Melissa, but we have a poll about primary voters who have earned a college degree or higher to kind of show you the divide between where we are with Republican and Democratic voters, and we do have it. And this dovetails well into the point we're making. 51% of Democrats who are primary voters have a college degree or higher. 35% of Republicans. This isn't, This is not, a character assassination on either side here, Faiz. But this shows the difference between the perspectives of these two groups and the messaging that's going to go to these two different groups, right?
You talk about the American workforce, Ryan. 2/3 of them do not have a college degree. Bulk of America is making under $100,000. Those are the people who increasingly, we have seen blue-collar voters moving from a Democratic Party that should be their natural home and increasingly moving towards a Republican Party. I do think that Republicans done a fine job of making themselves, under Trump, being faux populists and railing against some issues around corporate America. You see that with Ron DeSantis, a faux populist running against Disney. And what I think a Democratic Party needs to do to rebrand, and what you know from us and what we were fighting for with Bernie Sanders, is to be much more affiliated with working class people, organized workers who are fighting to improve their jobs, benefits, and get respect in the workplace. And I think that that's what Joe Biden, is trying to bring to this Democratic Party. To be clear, that's what student debt cancellation is about. Is this a working class message or not? And if you lean into a working class message that, yeah, people are struggling with debt, they're under 100,000, they're nurses working in hospitals, we fight for you. That's the opportunity that's presented here, is to get some of those working class voters back.
And do you think that's where the will is in the Democratic Party right now that we cover every day?
Think about the Democratic Party that we covered last Congress. The reason they couldn't put student loan debt forgiveness in the Inflation Reduction Act, which was previously Build Back Better, but still, is Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. We covered that ad nauseum, back and forth between those offices. So it's not just all Democrats want X and all Republicans don't want it. It's much more complex than that when you look into the actual people within the Democratic Party right now in Congress. And it's why you're saying the message isn't just elect Democrats, it's elect Democrats in a large enough margin that we can get rid of the filibuster, that we can codify Roe, that we can do all of these other things that we want to do, because the people who we have there now are not Democrats in the sense that they'll help them do that.
And we talked a lot, Jim, about the difference between the primary vote and the general election vote. What we're seeing play out in Philadelphia right now is clearly designed toward a primary voter.
Yeah.
Is the Republican messaging here, is it possible for them to win a general election, especially at the presidential level?
Well, I think the culture war is eventually going to hurt him. I mean, the base, whatever that is, 20% of the primary vote, 30, 40, 50% of the primary votes, is not going to translate into general election at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're thinking far enough ahead right now, honestly.
And do Democrats have what it takes to take advantage of that fact?
Yeah, I mean, I was chuckling a bit at the anti-government label of Moms for Liberty because yesterday you had Ron DeSantis, he's an anti-government candidate. He said, I'm going to abolish commerce, education, IRS. How's a nation that exists without an IRS, you know? And so, like, if there's an anti-government party, actually, is like what you're trying to advocate for. And I don't think that, to Jim's point, I don't know that that's a mainstream. I don't think that's successful.
Okay. Great conversation, guys. Thank you for being here right before a holiday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your 4th of July. We appreciate you being here. Ali, Faiz, and Jim, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.